I've got a small challenge to solve relating to these two lists, which I'll explain in a moment. So what are these lists? Well, the first list contains state propositions, which is just a list of initiatives that the electorate will vote on. It contains things like new taxes and bonds. The second list contains polling locations where people can cast their votes. Now, here's the challenge. We need to combine certain elements from each of these two lists together into a new list. Here's what I mean. The list we'll be generating is only for the state in the variable you see here, California. So all of these Washington elements should be excluded from our new list. There's one more concern. We only want to use location records where the ballot type is one of the values in this list here. Now the challenge I just described, taking records from this list and records from this list and combining them together, kind of sounds like, can you fill in the blank? Kind of sounds like mapping, right? Mapping takes enumerables and allows you to transform them into another type of enumerable. When I said we wanted to combine certain elements from this list with certain elements from this list, that kind of sounds like, well, it kind of sounds like filtering. You know how to do mapping and filtering. We've done these things several times over the last few videos. But there's one aspect of this challenge that's a little bit different than anything we've talked about so far. What exactly do I mean? Well, so far, when we've mapped and filtered, we were only dealing with a list. But in this example, we're dealing with two lists. So how should we handle this? Can we just use the enum or stream module and do filtering and mapping? Well, keep in mind, when you're working with the enum or stream module, you're taking one enumerable, your source data, and you're filtering, mapping, summing, and so on. But how do you work on two enumerables? In other words, how do you start with two different pieces of source data? Well, it can be done with the enum module, but it's not very elegant. Let me give you a simpler example to start with, and then we'll come back to our challenge. Let's say we've got two lists of numbers, as seen here, and we'd like to filter each list to only include the even numbers. Then we'd like to take each remaining number in these lists and multiply them times every other number in the other list. So for example, we'd take 2 times 6 and 2 times 8, then 4 times 6 and 4 times 8. Let's try to solve this using the enum module, but just a heads up, it's not going to be very pretty. But I'm doing it for a purpose, which you'll see in a moment. I'll start by creating a new variable named list3, and I'll bind it to the result of the following expression. I'll use the list1 as the source data, and I'll pipe it to the enum module's filter function. We need to filter for even numbers, so I'll capture and use the integer module's isEven function. To use the isEven function like this, we need to import it into the current namespace, which I'll do by keying import integer. Then I'll pass the import macro a keyword list, where the key is only, and the value is the list of functions to import, which includes their arity. Now after filter, I'll pipe the result to the map function, then I'll pass in an anonymous function that's provided a number that I'll bind to the x variable. Okay, this is where things start to get messy. I'll nest another function pipeline, starting with list2, which I'll pipe to filter, and I'll pass in the captured isEven function. Then I'll pipe the result to the map function, which will take an anonymous function that multiplies its parameter times x from the outer map. Do you think this will give us the result we need? Nope, not really. Let's take a look. I'll output list3, then we'll run the script to see what we get. Okay, it's a list with nested lists, which makes sense as we nested our pipelines. We can fix this nesting by piping the result of the outer map to the enum module's flatMap function, passing in a function that just returns whatever it's passed. Now, if we run the script again, we get the results you'd expect. You know, what we're doing in this example isn't complicated. It's pretty simple, but you wouldn't know that by looking at our code. Our code definitely seems overly complex, and it is more complicated than it needs to be, especially when you compare it to the code you're about to see. Elixir offers another tool for collection processing called Comprehensions. Let's start off with a simple example of comprehensions, just doubling the numbers in one list. To do this, I'll use the for macro, followed by an x variable, then I'll use the left arrow, followed by an enumerable. In our case, we'll just use a simple list. Then we'll pass the for macro a keyword list where the key is do, and the value is the expression x times 2. And as you can see, we doubled each element in our list. Now this part of the code, right here, is called a generator. We can sort of read this as send each value in the list to the x variable. Then whatever gets returned by this expression becomes the value in the same relative location in a new list. You might be thinking, this is interesting, but how does this help us with the problem we're trying to solve? Well, here's the thing. You can have more than one generator in a comprehension. So for example, we could add a comma, and after the first generator, we could add a second generator, where we use the y variable, followed by the left arrow, and another enumerable. Then in the do expression, we can take x times y, and as you can see, we ended up with the result that's a combination of both lists. Okay, so let's go back and rework this solution to use comprehensions instead. So I'll say list 3 is bound to the result of the following expression. For x of list 1 and y of list 2, return the product of x times y. Now, the next question you probably have is, how do we filter these two lists to only deal with even numbers? Well, after the last generator, you can add filters, which is just a predicate where we can say is even for x, and we'll add another filter that says is even for y. Now let's take a look at the result. And as you can see, we got the same result with comprehensions as we did with the pipeline, and the comprehension is way easier to understand at a glance. Okay, let's use comprehensions to solve the original problem I described, which is combining these two lists, but only for the state of California and only for ballot types 20 and 30. I'll create a variable named polling props, and I'll bind it to the result of using the for macro. Then I'll create a prop variable that is bound to the elements in the propositions list. How should we filter this list for only the California propositions? We could use filters like we did a moment ago, but there's another option as well, which is to do pattern matching. The way we'd use pattern matching is by putting our matching criteria to the left of the arrow. So in our case, I'll say each element of the propositions list should be a map data type, and it should have a state key that's set to whatever value is in the state variable, but we'll still use the prop variable, so I'll use the match operator between the variable and the matching expression here. So does this code look right to you? Well, there is a problem here, but we'll come back to it in a moment. Next, I'll add another generator using the location variable with the locations list, and I'll add the same pattern matching expression where the state must be the value stored in the state variable. Next, we'll add a filter where the location ballot type is in the ballot type list. This time I'll use a do block, and we'll return a new map with the prop ID key set to prop.id, and a state property that will be set to the state variable, and then I'll add the prop description, location ID, and address. Now I'll print out our new list, then I'll run the script to see what we get. Well, we get a list of maps, but check this out. We see some Washington state records, but we should only be seeing California records, so something's not quite right. In particular, these two pattern matches don't seem to be working. Do you have any thoughts on why they aren't working? Well, the reason it's not working is because what we've written here isn't actually making an assertion that the state must be California. It's just binding whatever is in the state property to the state variable. Watch what happens if we change the variable state to the literal value CA. This time our resulting list only contains California records. So here's the deal. If you want to use a variable in a pattern match, but you don't want to rebind a value to it, in other words, you just want to use it for assertion purposes, you need to prefix the variable with the pin operator, which is the caret symbol. Now, if we run our script again, you see the results you'd expect, only California records. Cool. Okay, I think it's time to start talking about something you've seen references to several times, protocols. And that's what we'll start to do in the next video.